were to say to you that it's never too late, you'd probably think, Shiro, that's so cliche, it's meh. I got a staph infection this week and it was like a tooth grinding experience because I had built a lot of momentum, and so for me to be hit with this infection and what it was doing to my body, basically my body's response was like, sis, we're out of order till further notice. So this week was one that was filled with regret over things that I said, things that I did, or even the things that I did not do. To a very small degree, I was just thinking that this experience, this moment that I was in, was about to infest the seed I had just planted and had been consistently watering, and that it would die before it even began to sprout. So once more, I was going to get into this cycle of disappointment that would eventually grow into regret. So there's this song by Frank Sinatra, it's called My Way. I like listening to it occasionally, and one of the lines says, regrets, I've had a few, but then again too few to mention. And so I have this thought, how does one minimize regret? There is no going back to undo what's already been done. So here's what I'm thinking. Although we cannot alter the past, we can at the very least redeem it. Imagine you are driving a car, but you are only looking in your rear view mirrors instead of looking out ahead of you. Of course, the rear view mirrors are very necessary to be able to see what's coming, but in actuality, if you just keep looking at the past, then you'll just be trying to avoid the past instead of going in the direction of your future. In the case of the car, pull out a map, see where you went wrong, reroute yourself back on the path to where you wanted to get to in the first place, because in actuality, the destination, depending on what or who it is, still exists. Today, you have the opportunity to be exactly the person you needed yourself to be back then in order to get into shape. Because the closer you get, meaning the longer you stay taking action to redeem it, the magnitude of that regret begins to shrink. To put it more practically, imagine that you are standing at point C but always wanted to get to point A. But you'd feel a lot less regret standing at point O because you're a lot farther from where you used to be and a lot closer to where you want to be. But here's where we need to think of a couple of factors that will affect the rate and the possibility of you getting to point A. And in honest truth, the last one will be a rather harsh one. Number one, it's obvious, it's not starting at all. And even if you do end up starting, but you're not being consistent with it, then that will be factor number two. The third one is that if you're not putting in the necessary action to get to your target, then that will either slow you down, or in the worst case scenario, it will take you completely off track. And the last one, which I don't wish upon anyone, is not living long enough to see point A. The reality is that you don't know how much time you have left, and although it's a dark and depressing thought, it really depends on how you look at it. Not having enough time gives us a sense of urgency, and so we get to value whatever of it remains. Imagine if your boss, teacher, client gave you a deadline of 2 years instead of 2 days. What do you think will happen? For the 2-year deadline, you're most probably going to leave it up until the last month, meaning you've wasted a year and a couple of months. Whereas if you had the 2-day deadline, you'd have started hitting the pavement immediately. So what if you don't make it to point A? Would you rather leave with 100% regret, having remained anchored at point C, or be left with 20% regret if you catapulted yourself to point D? I believe that's how we can minimize our regrets, and so I will leave you with a hopeful but still more realistic version of the cliche quote, and that is that it may not be